Hello and welcome to Here in LA, Sawtelle edition. Today we talk with Justin Fisher, who's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Justin moved out to LA in the early 90s with his best friend Rivers Cuomo of Weezer, just a few years before Rivers put that great band together. After some ups and downs, they moved into a house in the West LA neighborhood of Sawtelle on Amherst, just north of Pico. They dubbed it the Amherst House. If you're fans of the Blue album, the garage from In the Garage is the very same one from this very same house that we're talking about. Justin and Rivers lived in this place with up to 10 people. Because life is bizarre, that house has recently been demolished, so don't even bother looking. But what remains is the rock, namely the Blue album, which celebrates its 30th anniversary, and Justin's band Shufflepuck, whose lost 90s album, shelved by Interscope Records, is finally seeing the light of day now. We will talk music, Hollywood, how on earth he has kept his lovely disposition after all these years, and what's the future of everything. So let's welcome Justin Fisher. Hey everybody, I am here with Justin Fisher, and we're talking about Sawtelle. Hey!
Woo! Hi, Tony. Are we talking about Sawtelle?
We are going to talk about Sawtelle. You laugh at this.
I do laugh at this. This is a new idea to me. But
okay, so full disclosure, Justin and I have known each other 20 years?
At least
25 years?
Mid-90s.
Because Justin, we're going to tell his whole origin story, but Justin grew up in Connecticut, moved to California with two goals. To rock and to marry a California blonde girl.
Does that mean I made both of my goals? Did I do it?
I mean, first of all, that's kind of the American dream.
It really is. I'm sure it was in the back of my mind, both of those.
It's the American dream, and you did it.
And I did it.
And you did
I'm doing it.
And you look fantastic.
Thanks, Tony. You too.
Are you Gen X? You're Gen X.
That's what they call us, right?
You look fantastic. You've got all your hair. Sadly.
I don't have all my hair.
Well, you also got two kids.
I have the two kids and a dog and a house.
What kind of dog?
I have a big black lab. His name's Ty.
Does Ty make you lose some hairs too?
He did when he was a puppy.
Uh-huh.
He's about 95 pounds, and I was the only one in the house that could take that guy for a walk. He totally would just drag anyone else down the street.
So the kids are like, "Daddy, we want a dog," and
yes, and so the dog became mine.
Right. So okay, so we've known each other for a very long time, and because the woman that you married, Shannon, has been a friend of mine since college times, and I have to thank you for many things, Justin. First of all, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. This is exciting.
This is exciting for me too. And also thank you for letting me go to the Weezer show, or helping me get into the Weezer show.
We're not supposed to tell anyone that we got you into the Weezer show.
We're not really?
No, go ahead. Doesn't matter. It's fine. Go ahead. You can say that again. There's so many people that would have wanted to go to that show.
It is true. And we went to one other Weezer show together before.
That's right.
Kind of the tail end of COVID. It was Weezer, Green Day, and Fall Out Boy?
Fall Out Boy at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. I think that was might have been my daughter's first arena rock show.
Oh. Which, by the way, she blew me away. This teenage girl knew more about our eras of music than I ever expected. So well done on raising.
She's doing a pretty good job of discovering music on her own. She got like the Beatles from her grandpa, and we certainly have been trying to play her some things we think are cool, but she's coming across a lot of it on her own.
Yeah.
You know?
So
she loves like Fleetwood Mac, and the Beach Boys.
I mean
that she did that on her own.
You think so?
A lot of it.
You weren't playing any Fleetwood Mac in the house?
Every once in a while, but
there you go.
Maybe she just soaked it up.
Yeah. So thank you for those shows, but also you also gave me my biggest rock and roll moment.
Oh my gosh, what was that? Biggest?
The biggest. And I've had lots, but this is easily the biggest. When Shannon and I were working in Westwood at a startup.
Oh, right.
She said, "Do you want to come to a party tonight?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm not really party guy. And she's like, well, it's at our house. Justin and I are moving out, and this is the Weezer house. This is the Amherst house, and we're gonna have a party to say goodbye. And she was like, and I know how much you love Weezer. And I go, I do. And she's like, well, Rivers might be there, but heads up, he's kind of in a bad mood. He's depressed because Pinkerton, the album that you think is perfect,
that we all think is perfect,
kind of bombed compared to the Blue album, and he's super depressed. So if you see him and he is too shy to say anything, like, don't take it personally, and just say hi and that's it.
But that was a really good party.
That was a great party because I walk in, everything is cool. I see this house. You give me a nice little tour. I get to see the garage from in the garage, which
that's right.
Did have the kids'
all like 15 square feet of it.
It was smaller than it looked in the video. And then I get back out to the living room, and there's Rivers with like this giant like Grizzly Adams beard, and he's sitting in the corner of the living room, like just there weren't cell phones back then.
That sounds pretty familiar, though.
But I think he was just like looking at his hands. Like, I don't even know what he was looking at. He was the shyest guy at the whole party. And so I go over and I go, Rivers, I'm friends with Justin and Shannon, and just wanted to say how much I love the 2 records you've made, and fuck them.
I hope he appreciated that at the time.
I mean,
like we've all said, that's a great album since then, but at the time, I think they really felt like, where did we go wrong? What happened? We thought this was
nobody did anything wrong.
Yeah,
it just doesn't happen like that all the time. And so the party's rolling, and everything is fine. I get a couple drinks in me. In the garage, there's a drum set and some instruments out, tuned in, plugged in,
as there always was.
And I'm not a very good drummer at all, but the guy in there was even worse. So I was like, here's my chance. I can jam with my friends. And I think you were playing guitar or bass or something. And so I'm like, let's jam. So we're jamming. And all of a sudden, Rivers shows up magically with a 3-ring binder filled with Nirvana songs that he had like hand transcribed with...
now I know exactly what era this is.
With like,
I remember that binder.
Like maybe some chords are also like to help him like learn the music. And he comes in and he goes, you know any Nirvana? And I'm like, who? Here's Kurt Cobain.
I see the poster behind you.
Like Weezer and Nirvana are like easily 2 of my all-time favorite bands.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I do know Nirvana. But I know Nirvana enough that I don't know how to play Nirvana very good. Grohl is a really good drummer.
Yeah.
I am not a really good drummer.
Yeah.
So we played probably 3 songs together, you, me, and Rivers and some other guy.
That sounds super fun.
And I just stopped because I was so bad. I was so bad. And I hadn't played in years, and here's 2 of my favorite people, and I'm like, this is just so embarrassing. But it's a rock and roll moment, and...
playing Nirvana songs with all of us in the garage at the Amherst House. That sounds
how
awesome.
do you top that?
Well, okay, what else happened that night was that, among other things that happened at the party, that we were selling off 1-foot squares cuttings of the rugs that were on the walls.
You were?
Yes.
The rugs that you had soundproofed that quote-unquote garage with?
Yeah.
It wasn't a garage, though, was it? It was like
a 1-car garage, technically.
Was it?
You had a roll-up door. We just closed it off.
So it was a garage.
And I covered that whole room with these old carpet remnants I stole from the bin outside the carpet place a couple blocks away, and carried them by hand and nailed them up. Well, in the middle of the night, I dove into their dumpster and pulled out a bunch of old carpets because we had to make it quiet because there's a family that lives right in front of it. The Amherst House technically is a backhouse, a 2-bedroom backhouse.
Let's go back a little further in your life,
all right,
Justin. Your mommy met your daddy.
On a blind date at Cornell. My mom's was studying English, and my dad was an engineer studying nuclear technology in general. He was always a big nuke guy.
Wow.
And that became his career. But he had been and was putting himself through college playing in rock bands.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So did he teach you how to play guitar?
No, he bought me a couple guitars and gave them to me for my 4th birthday, but I never really picked them up.
Huh.
But then when my buddies start forming bands, and when we finally decided we got to do this thing, he's like, "Yeah, you can take my gear, no problem. You can take whatever you want." And so, like our first band, quote unquote, band practice, everyone had their tiny little practice amps, and I rolled in with my dad's version of that stuff from the 60s that was like taller than any of us,
Like real
Felt pretty
tube
awesome.
amps, like
The
real
real thing, yeah.
What do you remember? What kind of guitar you were playing then?
I had, oh gosh, I really wish I had it still. Like, I had the Gibson SG bass, from the 60s, like older than me.
Look behind you.
Just like that one, but it was maroon, and he played with flat wounds, and so I was trying to get this rock sound out of this thing, and he told me that the way he would get his sound in 64 would be crank his amp up as loud as possible, but turn it around backwards, so you couldn't really get the definition, but you felt the thump of the bass, and that would make people dance.
So smart.
No one's doing it these days, but I keep thinking, like, maybe I'll try that.
Do you remember what kind of amp that was?
He had an acoustic head and the refrigerator looking PV rear set speaker. So it was literally as tall as I was.
And you're how old?
14. So, but that's really a really good workout, because there's a lot of pushing gear around as a musician.
That's true, huh?
And so from day one, I was moving some heavy stuff. So it never really bothered me from that point on.
So, okay, what year? So there's Zoom, but what came before Zoom?
You want from the beginning?
No, just the band right before Zoom.
Avant-garde.
Avant-garde.
Yeah.
Okay, how old were you in Avant-garde?
Well, toward the end of 86, start of 87, I think. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there's someone that could pinpoint this already. It's probably in Wikipedia somewhere. Mm-hmm. Rivers and I had been in and out of some bands where we had been the singers, but we finally said, we're going to do this right. We're going to get the very best in all the other positions possible. Yeah.
About how old are you guys when you're deciding?
16.
So at 16,
yeah,
two guys who ended up as adults, excellent singers, has this like teenage like, maybe I'm not that good.
After like having like not really the success we always thought we should have been getting in bands where we were the singers or that we were supporting other people, we said, we got to form our own band, and we're just going to fill those other positions with the very best we can. So first it started with the drummer. And our very favorite drummer was this guy, Bryn Much, that we had been in some bands next to us, and he was like, I'm not interested in we said we're going to start the greatest heavy metal band anyone has ever seen.
You're 16.
We're 16.
What year again?
86.
86. So, boy, Guns N' Roses were there?
Not yet.
Around?
Not yet.
So like, are we talking AC/DC and Iron Maiden?
Well, we're on the East Coast, so AC/DC and Iron Maiden were huge influences, but by that point, there's also some people that are delving way deeper into what they call metal, and we really loved the kind of shreddery metal that was starting to happen. The East Coast, especially the Northeast, really loved this kind of like play as fast as you can, sing as high as you can, hit as hard as you can.
So Metallica, Hit the Lights?
Okay, so Metallica's thrash.
Oh, sorry. Is Anthrax thrash too?
Yes.
Okay.
And
so
we loved
metal.
And we loved that. And speed metal was another niche. What we loved is something we called progressive metal.
Okay.
And so we thought that there was like more musicality in progressive metal than thrash.
True. There's definitely more notes.
Yeah, we really loved this band called Fate's Warning.
Okay.
And most people would say, well, that sounds just like Metallica. But if you break it down, you would hear there's some other stuff going on. And so they are like definitely the poster we put on the wall and said, we want to be like this, but better.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Have you seen Fate's Warning in concert?
Since then?
We're
We saw them once at this club called the Agora in West Hollywood. It was our favorite club. It's also where we saw Metallica play for the first time.
I've never heard of this club.
2,000-seater.
Agora?
The Agora Ballroom in
What is it now?
West Hartford.
Oh,
Well,
Hartford. I thought you said West
Hartford,
Hollywood.
West Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay. All right.
I
Fine.
might have said Hollywood.
A 2,000-seater in West Hollywood.
Yeah.
Okay, so you saw them once.
Where we saw all our favorite.
Were they
bands.
great live?
Fantastic. They were amazing. And, we were diehard fans. And diehard fans in that way of that you get to be a fan of a band where you feel like you're one of the few people that know about this amazing thing.
Yeah.
Which is a special feeling.
It is a special feeling. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
So we were dying. We thought we would get the very best drummer. We'd get a singer that can sing these blisteringly high notes, kind of like Jeff Tate from Queensryche,
Oh, yeah.
So that's what we needed. We could not do that.
So, okay, so this drummer, if it's the metal that you're talking about, he's got to have
It's double kick pedal.
right.
Crazy fills, playing a billion notes.
Right.
But he didn't want to play in our new band that we were forming.
This makes sense because you sent me an avant-garde song the other day, and the time signature was very bizarre.
Constantly changing time signatures.
Right.
That's an important part.
And so I'm like, is
kind
this
of intricateness?
Is this guy bad? Is this like? I think they want it to be like this.
Yeah.
And knowing who you are, and again, that was really my only interaction ever with River. So I kind of think I know kind of what he's like from interviews. I don't think you would put out a record that you didn't like, that you thought was out of tune or out of time.
So not only are we into being in this heavy metal band, we also sing in a choir, and we're studying classical music and music theory and thinking that that's what is going to put us on top, that we have this edge on everyone else that in hindsight may have not been exactly what was going to put us on top, but
Yes.
at the time we thought, well, this is what we're bringing to the table that makes us different, that we can do all this kind of crazy stuff and come up with these different parts and put them together to make music. Late 1988, maybe January of 89, we're still on the East Coast. We're out of high school. We're still trying to figure out where we're going to take avant-garde. Are we going to go to LA? Are we going to go to New York? And we booked a show at the Agora for the first time. We were going to go play the same stage as where we saw Metallica and Ace Frehley and Fates Warning.
So 2,000 seats, that's bigger than the Wiltern, right?
Well,
I think the Wiltern's like
capacity 2,000. There were no seats. It was a big empty warehouse.
So like
with
the
two
Palladium
stages.
then?
Not as big as the Palladium. Lower ceilings.
So just a big-ass gym.
Big-ass gym with two stages. They could put one band on one, and then you would turn around and go stand on the other one, and while they were putting another band on the back on the other side. And it's really where we had seen your kind of mid-level touring acts that weren't quite ready to go play the Civic Center or whatever.
Yeah.
We were going to go play there. We rent all this awesome gear. We have our new outfits, and we had already gotten some kudos on some college radio stations. We're starting to actually maybe get a little industry attention, and we're living pretty this thing has definitely got some legs. We're excited. It's the direction we want to go in.
Yeah.
We show up at the club mid-afternoon for sound check, and there's nobody there. No, not a single car. And there's one piece of construction paper on the back door that says club closed due to snow.
Snow?
It wasn't snowing. But the band that we were going to open for was stuck in New Jersey in a snowstorm.
Oh. Who is that?
Liege Lord. Obscure heavy metal band that we were really, really stoked to open for it.
Uh-huh.
And the show is totally canceled. It's not going to happen. And then that night, Rivers and I are driving around town, and we get in a 5-mile-an-hour accident somewhere. Someone skids on the ice and runs into us or something. And then we said, we're going to LA.
Good for you.
We were out here 2 months later. were not jocks. I probably could have been, but the people I fell in with were definitely not the most popular kids, not the jocks, not the cool guy smoking behind the school. You know,
Were you a cool guy?
I was absolutely not cool. I was
Really?
totally like bottom level, like not social at all. I just didn't know how to do it.
Were you not a sports guy at all?
I love sports.
Did you
But
play?
I would have played more if my buddies were the ones that were playing on all the teams. I tried to play on our middle school soccer team, and it just wasn't as fun as I thought it was going to be.
Oh.
I grew up with the guys that went on to play school sports.
Uh-huh.
But by that point, I was in rock bands. So
I heard Rivers left was it an ashram?
yeah, he was living in an ashram.
Speaking of religion,
Yeah.
so his parents were like kind of hippie people.
Which is something you find in Connecticut. In the backwoods back there, there's lots of alternate living situations. You don't really see it, but once you're in that community, there's a whole lot of it happening. And our parents had known each other from that world. Like, my parents weren't living on a commune, but they were definitely friends with people that were. And I think Rivers and I, like, we always laugh because our mom said they wanted to get us together to hang out because they thought that their sons would like to hang out with each other. We're like, no way am I going to hang out with your weird hippie mom's kid. But we met in school instead.
And what's crazy is our friend group is as close to of a commune as you can get without actually living in the same block.
We've all still been friends and hanging out with each other, and now we know all each other's kids for 30 years plus.
And somehow just
so
magically
amazing.
moved from city to city together. And it wouldn't be shocking to me if when we retired, we actually did retire in a commune.
I hope so.
I do too.
We keep talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so he leaves this experience, which has got to be kind of freaky to go from a commune to like quote unquote real life. And from what I understand, you're his first real friend, his first like good friend.
Well, he had friends at the commune, right? And he's still in touch with all of those guys, those families.
I mean, on the other side of the wall.
So he comes to he joins a public school for the first time, and among other things that his parents do to try to help him out, he and his brother, they let him pick normal, quote unquote, normal names.
Rivers is a normal name?
Rivers is not the name that I met him under.
What? Hold on. What? And his brother has a kind of a freaky name too, right?
Leaves. Yeah.
Which I don't want to say freaky. Those are beautiful names.
They are beautiful, right? And they figured out that they're cool by the time we get to middle of high school. But
Okay,
in
so
middle school, and they don't know what to expect, and they don't want to feel like they're out of place. And so Rivers is Peter, and Leaves is Jimmy. And so I met Pete, in 82, and he's hanging out with some other kids after school in the library. The other kids are playing D&D at this table.
Does Rivers know how to play D&D? Are they playing that in the ashram? There's no way.
I don't know if he learned it at the ashram, but he wasn't playing that day. He was just at the table with everyone else.
Okay, he's checking it out.
He's checking it out, but he had like a sack full of some really amazing graphic novels. And I came over and like just to say hi to these guys who I was friends with, not like good friends, but I was friends with them, and I was a big D&D fan at the time. And I was like, hey, like checking out the thing. And then there's this kid at the end of the table with these amazing graphic novels with colorful, amazing sci-fi and fantasy artistry that I had never seen before. I was just, what is that?
Yeah. So I've got 12-sided die.
Yes, directly from that.
Directly
experience.
from you, maybe.
All of us. From that point on, we all started playing role-playing games like D&D, but there were some other ones that were really fun back then too. I think it's like the second wave of role-playing games. It wasn't the very first Gary Gygax AD&D one.
Yeah.
It was like the second version of it that it was kind of blowing up. And it's also like when it's reached like the public eye, like there's that Tom Hanks novel or movie that he's like going a little bit crazy, and everyone thought that D&D was going to rot people's brains. And so we tried them all. D&D is worked out, had the best rules, but there was some other ones. There was like Champions where you're a superhero, and there's one called Gamma World where it's post-apocalyptic.
It's still in
and
you. It
top
did damage your
secret.
brain.
Well, now I see it all the time now. Everyone's playing D&D. It
Yeah.
seems like it's at least in my Facebook feed. You know.
Okay, so that's how you guys meet. You start rocking together.
No.
You didn't start rocking together?
Not yet. We are listening to a bunch of music together, and we're in choir together in middle school. Class night, the very last like assembly for the 8th graders, our buddies get on stage at the end of the thing and play a Quiet Riot song, and everyone's standing on their seats and freaking out. And Rivers and I turn to each other and go, "We have to do this." So we started our first band, which was called Fury. I'm sure, Rivers has stories of like wanting to be in a rock band way before that. He wanted to be in Kiss. I think he like wrote himself a record contract or a contract to himself, like I will be a rock star. Like that's stuff he's talked about with everybody.
I wish you had an axe guitar.
Are you kidding? You're gonna wear a head like that?
Yeah,
Why?
because we want to look like Kiss.
But I never really thought about it until that night. Like I knew my dad had been in rock bands, and I'd seen my friends all with guitars a few months before this, but I never really thought about it.
Until you saw the girls.
Okay,
the girls' reaction.
I gotta say, it was the girls that had the biggest reaction when we were 14. And watching them like just leap up out of their seats, stand on the seats, run up to the stage for these other guys who I'd known for a few years that never looked this cool before. All of a sudden, they were like gods.
Yes.
For 3 minutes.
But
right?
like we're saying, we have to see our peers do this at a young age for us to understand we can do it too. It's kind of like skateboarding. If you see a kid jump over another kid, you're like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah,
That's not Tony Hawk. I can do this.
Sure. And now, like, you don't have to go just witness it at a house party or in your friend's garage. You turn on YouTube, and there are people like shredding when they're like 12, right?
Yeah.
And you go, oh, I could do that too.
But when you saw it in person, your peers playing Quiet Riot and the girls reacting, you're like, done.
So
Sold.
exciting. And we could do that too. And it wasn't, I think 3 months later, we were playing some local town fair or something in Massachusetts. We played 3 Kiss songs. I still have recordings of that.
Okay, was music school worth it? Should parents send their kids to Berkeley or this music institute?
I've been asked that a lot of times. What school should my kid go to? Because they're really interested in music, and I say, go to school. School is awesome. Being part of a school and getting that experience is fantastic. But if they want to play rock and be in a rock band, you got to go out every night and be in a rock band. If you want to be a jazz musician, yes, go to school because there's tons of stuff you got to learn, but you also should be playing every night with someone. It doesn't have to be the same person every night, but you got to be out part of a scene. So you're not going to learn how to play in the classroom. The classroom's not going to get you into a band.
What are some of the things that you learned on these stages as a young person that they can't teach you in class?
The class isn't set up to show you how to get a gig. Even Musicians Institute, they talk about like preparing everyone to like ace the audition, but they don't tell you how to find one. And in fact, probably the teacher in your class is also going to that audition because he wants that gig too. And they get like all of our friends have taught there at one point or another, or done a seminar, or like the guys I was learning from, I was excited because like, here's a guy from Racer X, I get to sit in with him,
Yeah.
But that same guy wants the next gig that I want to also, right?
We went to the Weezer show the other day. That was the 30th anniversary celebration of their first gig ever.
Yep.
Where Keanu Reeves' band, Dogstar, played at Raji's at probably like midnight. Weezer got on at 1 o'clock. Famously, all the girls left. They're playing to an empty room, kind of.
Well, empty
Maybe
except for like the 12 of us that had come to
12
support
friends from
Yeah.
Connecticut.
Well, it wasn't all people from Connecticut at that point, but
My point is this. Weezer, of all people, with a tape with songs from the Blue album. Sweater Song. Say It Ain't So. Can't get a gig.
it can't get a gig in 92 when
In L.A.
Because-
Where there's endless clubs, right?
Yep, you got to break in one way or another, and they did it the right way. They hounded any promoter that they could get their hands on, that they had contact with. They just called them over and over and over again, and finally, on that one day, the promoter was like, "All right, I got a cancellation. If you guys can get here tonight, you get to play."
So is this the lesson that they should be teaching people at Berkeley?
Any one of those places, get out, find the scene you want to be a part of, find out who's in it. An important lesson I learned from Matt from Weezer. What they did, they had learned from a band called Wax from Chicago. One of our favorite bands ever.
I'm gonna move to Southern California. Got me riding a reason to ignore.
Then those guys told Matt, go to every show of bands that you like or you think you want to play with. Go stand in front. Go say hi to them afterwards and try to be part of the things they're doing, figure out what they're doing right, and support them, and they hopefully will do the same to you, and you build a scene around what you guys are doing together. And the promoters will see you're out and trying to get people to those shows, and that helps bring people to the clubs, and everyone's happy. And when I went to a Weezer show, I knew I was going to run into all these people that I didn't rub elbows with during the day, but, it was our friends, And to this day, they have a huge fan base, and their fan club are super, super tight because they know they're, here's my people. And when Weezer plays or when we get together to do a fan club thing, it's the people I, feel close to.
What made you guys choose the Amherst House?
All right, it's 1992. Rivers is living in he's renting a room near Santa Monica College and taking classes there. He had been bouncing around while he was working at Tower Records, and he met all these cool people.
Which tower?
Originally, it was in Fullerton. After Avant-Garde / Zoom had broken up, he had to move in with a girl he had met through the band, and it was down in Fullerton because we were all homeless. So he starts working at
So
Tower
all you
Records.
guys are so broke
Yeah.
that you have to move in. He has to move in with his girlfriend.
Yeah,
In
we
Fullerton.
all spread out because we were instantly homeless, lost our Hollywood apartment and our gear, and none of us had cars.
You lost your gear?
No, we
Oh.
each had our Marshall stacks and stuff, but with
Really?
no-
You guys
with
bought
no
Marshall stacks when you moved out here?
We brought them. Okay.
Avant-Garde and Zoom had Marshall stacks behind them?
Yeah, absolutely. Are you
Hell
kidding?
yeah.
That we're a metal band. Yeah, but we put our amps on a Greyhound bus. I fly out at the beginning of March and secure our one-room bachelor apartment a block and a half up the street from Hollywood Boulevard, and the rest of the guys are going to drive across the country in our drummer's family wagon van. including a couple guys from our favorite band, Fates Warning, who also are coming to the West Coast at the same time. And they need a ride, which is kind of telling you like where they were at in their musical careers. But they hitch a ride with us, right?
So cool.
They're so rad that we were starting to actually rub elbows with those guys. Mm-hmm. Our gear comes on a Greyhound bus a couple days before them, and I just like bum a ride from some people I happen to have met down to the Greyhound station down at like Vine and Sunset, get all our gear. And so that's sitting in our one room, all our Marshall stacks, no furniture. And those guys show up in the middle of the night, and I tell them, hey guys, this is so great. I've been here for 3 or 4 days. I'll show you everything when like tomorrow morning. And they all crash out on the floor. Avant-Garde changes their name to Zoom because we're trying to like kind of fit into this amazing heavy metal scene we found on the Sunset Strip, but we don't quite fit in. So we try to like.
Are you 21?
No, we're not 21 at all.
So you can't.
We're 18 and 19.
Can you hang out at the Rainbow?
No. And could we have hung out at the Rainbow? We had no money.
Oh, that too.
Yeah, so we hung out on the street where there's thousands of people on the street.
Yeah.
And you meet these other bands and the people that want to come see the other bands and be part of the scene. There's 1,000 people out there flyering and just hanging out, which is something we did not have in Connecticut.
Was Gazzari's all ages? Because I'm trying to think. If
Whiskey is all ages, but I can't remember if Gazzari's was at the time.
Was Whiskey pay to play back then? Or was it cool?
They were all pay to play.
They were?
Yeah, and I see the face you're making about pay to play.
Yes, I am.
But
if I ate 18 lemons just now.
But pay to play made us promote. It forced us to promote because we didn't have enough money to pay for those tickets if we didn't sell them. So we used whatever money we would normally have been spending on food and bought those tickets, and then tried to sell them. And every night we would either walk to the Sunset Strip or drive our van down there and try to park illegally somewhere.
Good luck.
But at the time, you could do it.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is why I say that Justin is one of the all-time nicest people in the Nice Guy Olympics. There's Ben Sullivan. There's Mark Johnson. Do you know Mark Johnson?
Super nice guys. Totally. I can't remember if I know him. Do I?
Because he lives up north.
Yeah, I don't know Mark Johnson. But Ben Sullivan, he's going to get the gold medal for nicest guy.
He's up there, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's pretty good. I mean, he met his wife at a soup kitchen where they were volunteering.
That's pretty good.
Making soup on Skid Row.
Yeah.
And there's a couple others, but you guys are. I've never heard anybody say, "Yeah, paper play got us to hustle."
It got us to hustle, and you're gonna sell your tickets, and we would like buy ads in BAM magazine or music. Rock City News, and so that's more money we were paying, and then that was a total kind of scam because then those people would come, those rags would send their, would send out someone to review your show and put you back in the magazine. Kind of like you found out immediately, like, if you put some money in, we will back you and you'll become the next big thing.
I like that.
Immediately, within a few months, our drummer says, "Hey, this isn't for me. I'm going to go back to Connecticut." And we didn't understand it at all because we were so focused, and we had been so focused for so many years. And he's just like, it wasn't his thing.
And you're hanging out on the Sunset Strip.
Hanging on the Sunset Strip, and it didn't take us long to start actually getting a following because we're working hard at it. And a few months later, we're headlining the Roxy.
Really?
Yeah, headlining the Roxy on a Saturday night, capacity crowd, 600-800 people. I mean, this is like, we're like Rat. We are really doing great. The very next day, our superstar guitar player says, "Yeah, I'm not going to do this anymore either. I'm gone." So we lost our drummer, and we had...
The Roxy wasn't good enough for this guy?
He said, "I think I'm going to become a classical composer." This is going to become a theme if we keep talking about all the people from this band, Because Rivers will also change his mind every 6 months or so, like what's important and what he thinks
But
his
the
next
day
step be.
after the Roxy show?
That show was so awesome.
Although I gotta say though, if you don't have a giant boner for rock and roll after playing that, maybe you should quit.
Maybe it's time to figure out that you really should move on and do something else, right?
Yeah.
So he quits. We never found a replacement for Bryn. We were playing with some temporary drummers and stuff, and all of a sudden it's just me, Rivers, and Kevin Rydell. And everything fell apart.
So Kevin's your singer.
Yeah.
You're on bass, Rivers on guitar.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a drummer.
We don't have a drummer, and it all falls apart. And now we're homeless, and we spread to the very far reaches, four corners of Los Angeles. And Rivers went to Fullerton, and starts He's living at this girl's house, and he starts working at Tower, and then he figures out a way to get back, and he starts working at Tower in Hollywood, and that's where he met all the cool people that include the rest of Weezer.
Somebody's hiding, it's crawling my icebox. Somebody's cold one is giving me chills. Guess I'll just close my eyes. Oh yeah, alright. Feels good inside. Flip on the telly, wrestle with Jimmy. Something is bubbling behind my back. The bottle is ready to go.
I heard that when you were a teenager with Rivers, one of the first places that you guys practiced was a place that you helped build. It was like in the woods. It was like an abandoned, like crazy place that you had to build your own walls. Is that true?
When Avant-Garde got started, we knew that one of the things we were going to have to do is go play at this place called Bazzini Brothers.
Bazzini Brothers?
Bazzini Brothers.
Okay.
Or AKA the Band Room. It's
Right.
in a town a couple towns over from Storrs, Connecticut, where we're from. It's in Manchester, Connecticut. Storrs is great if you want to follow some women's basketball or get into agriculture, like you want to be a dairy farmer. But there's no rock scene in Storrs, even though there's a huge university, right? 2 towns over in Manchester, there's a bunch of rock and roll kids, and they happened to have this place that was an old furniture factory, the Bazzini Brothers Furniture Factory, and it's in the middle of the woods. It's massive, sprawling brick building from, like the start of the Industrial Revolution or something. Totally condemned. 3-story
Great.
building.
Great.
1 in 10 lights work. Maybe the freight elevator works every once in a while.
But there is electricity.
There is electricity. You better watch out because it might be laying in a puddle.
Oh,
And the way and it was totally unsupervised. But there's any given night, you knew as a teenager, you could just go there and hang out, and there was some rock band playing.
Huh.
Maybe 12 rock bands playing. And you could just wander around and like listen outside their door. Or people would open up their doors and have an open concert. And the way you got a place there is you went and found Old Man Bazzini on the 3rd floor, like past, he was working at some tool, like it's kind of like in the beginning of the Lorax, like that Dr. Seuss book. You give him like an old snail and a bent nail, and and then he would like drag himself out of his office. It's like, stacks and stacks of old newspapers and stuff, and he would walk you down to some big open space on the floor, and he would pace out the spot and goes, all right, this is what you guys got. And then you have to come in and build your own walls in the spot that he paced out. And
that was your spot forever?
Well, for the next couple of years.
What?
And so we got someone to steal a bunch of plywood and 2x4s for us, and it was Connecticut, so it's it's going to be too hot and it's going to be way too cold. We had this massive construction style like Bunsen or butane heater that like was like a jet engine in the middle of the winter. It's total fire trap. This whole place was a fire trap.
But this is what I fear about your kids. There isn't a place to practice. It doesn't seem like to me.
Well, when we got to Hollywood, they had a lot of similar places, like this place, Vernon Studios, down like way south of downtown, and there was downtown rehearsal, and there was the place on Western.
Okay, but
Hollywood.
downtown rehearsal is what now?
It's got to be out of everyone's price range.
I think it's one of these private clubs.
Is it?
For the entertainment industry? They ruined the practice rooms to have their exclusive club.
Well, the opposite. Now all the kids have brand new gear, and they get to go to these plug and play rehearsal halls that have like just the best equipment I've ever seen. And it's super clean.
So there is rehearsal places for them,
Yeah.
but they've got to have money.
They gotta have money.
Okay.
Otherwise, you play in someone's bedroom, which is how we started too.
But okay, but like, I once heard drums in this neighborhood. I'm in East Hollywood. Once I heard drums as we're me and my girlfriend were walking through the streets, and I'm like, that sounds suspicious, because we don't hear that.
Right.
Turns out it was the Red Hot Chili Peppers playing at the Silver Lake Conservatory.
It's Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Because
they're at the conservatory.
they're the only people that are allowed to play.
Yeah.
In all of Hollywood, outside.
Well, you might not have seen it here in the middle of town, but especially during COVID, everyone just set up in their front lawns, and there was this. It was not an isolated event. Everyone was doing like front lawn concerts, and the whole neighborhood would come out because we hadn't had any interaction with each other. It didn't matter how good or bad or the bands were. It was probably someone's teenage kids.
Yeah.
But everyone just loved the fact that they were getting to like interact with each other, even like, you know, distance. By 92, Rivers was living on the west side. Matt Sharp is planning to come back to LA because he and Rivers want to start a band together. I'm living in North Hollywood. I just had the worst year of my life, trying to like get into some other band, trying to like make it happen as a like a hired gun bass player, like a studio bass player guy without a car, which is ridiculous in hindsight.
Okay, so Matt Sharp wants to take your job as Rivers' bass player?
Oh, not my job at that point. We were not trying to be in a band together anymore in 91.
You guys had musical differences? You were just too far apart?
We were trying to figure out what to be next. Rivers has started writing songs on acoustic guitar, some of which you all know now. But at the time, there were like these new kind of like folk style songs on acoustic, and he's thinking about starting a band. And he had been living with Pat Wilson and Matt Sharp from Weezer in an apartment like 6 months before that. And those guys had also talked about being in bands and stuff. And Rivers and Pat had a band called Fuzz for a little while. And they're kind of like Jane's Addiction, kind of funky rock with a chick bass player who was super cool. And they were great. They were really, really great. But that had fallen apart. But they were like, that was really cool. What can we do? What's the next step past that?
Yeah.
And Matt had been floating around, and he finally says, I'm going to come back to L.A. And I had finally decided that where I was at in North Hollywood was not happening. And Matt and I go crash on River's floor, and I said, we need a place that we could have a band rehearse. What can we do? Like, the idea that we can't live and play music in one place is wrong. So we started looking for a place, and I think it was Matt that found the listing for the Amherst House.
Nice.
A 3-bedroom back house for $1,000.
Yes.
And the three of us were like, I think we can barely cover that. I think we can do it. And we tell the very nice Japanese family that's trying to rent it out that we're UCLA students and that we're studying to become film scorers, and that there might be some interesting sounds coming from the garage. So we might be recording timpanis and cellos and some stuff. And they said, okay, as long as our parents co-signed that we would always pay our rent on time.
That's all he cared about.
That's all they cared about.
Pay us that $1,000.
Yep.
I wonder if that was like their mortgage.
I hope so.
Like floating them their mortgage.
You got to think so that like they had been living there their entire lives.
Oh, have they?
And it was their house, right? They owned it.
Maybe it was paid off.
Maybe it was paid off. So the $1,000 they got from us helped the dad pay for his 4 kids to go to college.
There was 4 kids in the front house.
4 teenagers.
Wow.
While Weezer is becoming a rock band, and then for the next 10 years of all the other rock bands that came out of that place, and you know, wild like actors and stuff that were living there.
Did the parents ever tell you to knock it off?
No, in fact, we once had like an old neighbor behind us go, "Hey, we haven't heard much music recently. You know, it keeps us young. Make sure to keep it up." Well, I cannot understand how things. All right, you were talking about fate earlier, or someone like. I don't know how we found that place, but it was magical.
See, I was not, as a Christian, I was not talking about fate, sir. My belief, and it's just a belief, who knows, right? My belief is either Jesus or an angel whispers in Jesus' ear and be like, these kids are okay.
Maybe we got to give
They
them
just
something.
need a little baby break. Like, all they want is a place where they can rock and sleep at the same time.
10 years. Almost every night for 10 years, playing in the back, in the garage, in the middle of like, you know, like houses in West LA are close. They're not as close as Venice or Santa Monica, but they're close to each other. Mm-hmm. And yes, we quote unquote soundproof that garage, but not really. There's only so much you can do with bass and drums. That stuff carries.
So the only night that I was in there, I had heard that you and Shannon were sleeping in the attic for some of this time that you were living there. Is that true?
At any given time in that 10 years, there were between 3 and 10 or 12 people living in that back house. When we
3 and 10 and how many?
In a 2-bedroom back house, right?
10 people.
Yeah, at times.
And again, the Japanese family were like,
never
us our
questioned
grand.
it. Yeah. So there would be like a couple or 2 or 3 people living in each bedroom. Someone would be. When we moved in, I was sleeping on the couch, but within a month, I had created like this loft space. Like I cut the living room in half, and then I moved out of the loft space into the attic, and 2 people moved into my loft space in the living room. So, and then I built another loft space in the garage.
how many bathrooms?
1 bathroom.
10 people, 1 bathroom.
Yeah.
How many women?
Occasionally 2 or 3 at a time. Sometimes, you know.
Okay, is it the refrigerator that's the hardest part? What's the hardest part? Is it the bathroom?
All right, so you've seen it, right? Before you came to that party, you had seen the "Say It Ain't So" Weezer "Say It Ain't So" video.
Yeah.
When the film crew shows up to shoot that, I open the front door and I say, "Hey, come on in, you guys. It's 6 a.m., you know." And they come in and they're like, "We need somewhere to put the monitor for the director." And I'm like, "I don't know, put it somewhere." And they just like shove all the dirty dishes off the counter and slam the monitor right there. So dishes are a hard thing with that many people.
Oh, right.
Bathroom time's hard.
There's no dishwasher?
No dishwasher. The rug, like wall-to-wall carpeting gets pretty gross.
You didn't sell the rug?
The rug at one point had gotten torn out because someone had their massive like Saint Bernard or something staying there. That rug. By the end of those 10 years, it was really horrendous.
Did the Japanese family were they good about fixing stuff, repairing stuff, or you just didn't bother?
We
them
never
at all?
bothered them.
Good for you.
Yeah. The going away party for Weezer when they're gonna go either record their album or for their first big tour, the toilet got broken in half. I don't know what happened, but there were still people going in and out of there. I knew the toilet was totally crushed, but we replaced it ourselves.
Good.
You know,
Well, you're a handy guy, though.
I'm willing to try to do the thing. I'm handier now because we've been in so many situations where you had to take care of it.
Well, also you're in production. You're in TV.
Right.
And
I
film
work
production.
in TV and film, which is turns out it's an amazing career to have. I've been doing
Yeah.
it for decades now.
Especially if you know how to work a hammer and all the other
You'll
things.
learn. The way to get the
You
gig,
weren't handy before you got here?
I could build a treehouse.
That's pretty handy.
Well, once again, like you kind of like, it would be really awesome to have a treehouse up there. Let's do it. And you just do it, right? It'd be great to have a loft space in my living room because I need a bed and I want to have a little bit of privacy. So I drew that out on a piece of paper on the bus on the way back from work one day. And then I walked down to the local hardware store and I carried the plywood back and nailed it all together. It's the same way we did the garage.
What is Rivers' guitar? Is it a Telecaster? What is that thing? He's got stickers all on it. Is it a fancy guitar? Is it a crappy
No, it's
guitar?
a Fender Stratocaster.
It's a Strat. Just a plain old
Yeah.
Strat with stickers on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And probably like the one that was like the best sounding one was this total mongrel of a guitar that was put together by someone in that group. Probably Jason Cropper had a hand in making it. Someone that was at this other locale of really interesting creative people called the Stoner House because it was on Stoner Ave.
Which is a few blocks
blocks
east.
away. If you
Yeah.
also look up all the Weezerpedia stuff, Stoner's in there a lot.
Near Stoner Park.
Yeah,
Which is a great park.
totally great.
Got everything there. Okay. You are not in Weezer, but you are in the house.
I'm in the house, and I said if we were going to do anything musically or creative, we have to have a place that people can come play.
So here's my question. Rivers is your best friend. You've heard a lot of his music. You've heard his music change. He's now writing different types of music for Weezer. They have their first rehearsal. Was there a moment where you're like, holy shit, Buddy Holly? Or holy shit, Saying Ain't So? I mean, that riff for Saying Ain't So? You're like, what? Is there a moment where you felt that way? Or did it just like slowly just creep on you?
From day one, those guys became my favorite band ever.
Right away.
I'm at every single show.
Right away, Pat.
Everything they're doing.
And Matt.
Yeah.
And who's on bass?
Matt Sharp is on bass.
I'm sorry. Who's
Pat and Jason Cropper is on guitar.
Jason Cropper.
Yeah.
Why don't I know him?
Because they have a falling out when they go to record their first album in New York.
Is Jason the guy that wrote or co-wrote Jonas?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So the first practice, you just got it? You just saw it? You understood?
I had already seen him playing with Pat in Fuzz, and that was amazing. This was an extension of that.
So Pat's the secret weapon?
in a number of ways. He teaches those guys how to make some of those chords that sound like Weezer chords. Yeah, he says
The
like,
drummer.
Yeah. Pat's a fantastic guitar player, and he had his own band called Special Goodness. Mm-hmm. You know,
And I know that for a little while he was playing a little tiny bit of guitar.
and he would do it on stage because
Yeah.
you know, like those guys are all incredibly creative, and they don't always get a chance to like flex that creativity in that band.
Well, no, but, I mean, Pat had 18 floor toms the other tour. He was very creative.
Yeah.
So honestly, the first practice, do you remember if it was a song or it was just a sound?
I wasn't at the first practice. I saw those guys come back from it,
Yeah.
and they were just so jazzed. And
They felt it too.
They felt it. I think Jason said like it was so hot in there, like he ended up naked, and they were just rocking so hard. And he's like this bronze like sun god, you know, like he's a special guy. But they were so excited about it. And then they start rehearsing every night at the Amherst House. They would play for an hour, and that was it. They don't like to have marathon sessions, but they would be there every single night, and then they would talk about like how they're going to make it better and who they're going to be and what they're going to be and how can they be more like this other band they see, or you know, like what label should they be on? So how should they like, you know, like design their image and their sound and stuff. This is every single night at the Amherst House. So like
just brainstorming.
Yeah, and
Are
so
they
it
all
meant
are they all into this? Are they all throwing out ideas, or is it really just Rivers and kind of like
Rivers
bombarding them?
and Matt actually lived there, and so Pat and Jason would come in and out.
Yeah.
Our good friend Carl would be in and out. It's just a place that people would
Carl,
be hanging
who's
out.
the archivist of the whole band and everything.
But Rivers and Matt would sit at the table every single night and try to like brainstorm what's going on. And so that's the world I'm living in. Like I would work during the day, I would come back, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do in music. And
Did you feel left out when they're brainstorming this band?
I wish I was in a band just like that. Mm-hmm. And especially like at first people are not getting the band, but it doesn't take very long for the scene to welcome them in and become to grow around them. And so we're going to these shows that are becoming more and more packed.
So after the Dog Star show, they're starting to get
Yeah.
gigs around town.
But LA at that point is still like the scene they're playing in is mostly grunge bands in '92. You know, like that seems to be still like the most popular thing, and a lot of people still didn't understand what Weezer was doing. The rest of us are like, this is great. And so for that whole period, I'm going, I want to do something like this too, and I'm sure I can do it if I can find the right people to play with. It happens. It took me a little while to figure it out, but Weezer's just about to take off for their first tour, and I convinced my good friend Adam that something is happening out here, and he had already like started like checking out the stuff that Rivers had been doing, and so Adam Worth is hanging out with Rivers a little bit when Rivers went back to Connecticut, and he's like, oh man, maybe I should do this too. And so the two of us kind of figure it out. Okay, all right, Weezer did it, we can do it too. So he moves out, and within 6 months, our new band Shufflepuck is also on top of the world. You know, like we are rocket to the top.
Really, that fast?
Yeah. So like, I often am asked, like, don't you wish you were in Weezer too? Like, I thought that I could do it as well, right? Yeah, being in Weezer would be awesome. That's a fantastic band, but why not also be in your own awesome band? And Shufflepuck was like immediately this rad thing to be a part of.
I call her on the phone, but she's not home, so where the hell is she? Without me, is she with another guy tonight? She's got me twisted up inside, and it's her smile that keeps me up at night. She's got something
what clubs were you guys playing?
Pretty much the exact same ones. Like we started on a Wednesday night, last on the bill at Bob's Frolic 3, which is this tiny little hole in the wall on the east side of Hollywood, like to 4 people,
Is it?
But then not too much later, we're playing, like what we had thought of as our favorite clubs, like the Opium Den and Hell's Gate. And I mean, they're small clubs, but a lot of cool people are there, right?
Hell's Gate was so great.
Yeah.
On I want to say Ivar-ish. What's that street though called?
Well, the Opium Den, which before it was called the Gaslight, you enter off Ivar, but
Yeah.
its face is really on Cahuenga.
Right.
And Cahuenga had tons of bars, but the main rock club was right at the end. It was called Opium Den.
Yeah. When you're playing to 4 people, is there a fight in the band afterwards? Like, none of our friends could come. You couldn't get any chicks on the street out here. Like, I'd be so disappointed because it seems like you set up, you've been practicing. 4 people, nobody's hustling.
Any chance to play is a chance to play, and people can't always come out on a Wednesday night. They got work. And
But
I was never mad at someone else in the band because they couldn't get people out.
see again,
I was
nicest
like,
guy in LA.
Like, what can we do better to get more people to the next one?
Do flyers on telephone poles work?
No. What do they do? Any flyers work? I would say, and you're talking to a guy that flyered every single night, right? Yeah. What does a flyer do? It's just like pay to play. The idea that you have to flyer for your show gets you out talking to people. Are they going to come because they got a flyer in their hand? Probably not. The flyer in their hand is the thing they drop on the ground, right? And they're not going to look. They're probably not going to look at it, but the name of your band got in front of them for half a second. And you talked to them, and maybe you made an impression while you were talking to them when you handed the flyer to them.
I'm trying to think, have I ever gone to a show because of a flyer? No. Have I ever gone to a show because I saw somebody hanging out flyers?
But don't you wish you had all those old flyers? Like, I love that rock and roll ephemera of, like, such and such band's flyer from day X, right?
Mm-hmm. I think the only time it worked on me was South by Southwest. Did you guys ever play South by?
Shufflepuck got to play their best night ever at South by.
Look at me as the interviewer.
Right? It was an
amazing
night. It must have been 96.
Okay.
Our album is done.
Mm-hmm. What label?
We're on Interscope, but we don't have a manager yet. We had done all this without a manager.
96?
Yeah.
Weezer's manager couldn't hook you up with somebody?
We did it on our own. And
you really never... Is River still your best friend?
And
in 96?
It just didn't come around that we needed a manager yet. I kind of wish we had a manager ahead of time. Uh-huh. But we scored an amazing manager after.
Oh, good.
But South by Southwest,
yeah,
we're there. We are at the peak of any kind of interest we have going on. Like, the label loves us. The
also,
industry
South by
loves
in 96 is a baby version of what it is today, which has got to be great.
It was fantastic.
Because you're not competing against Metallica. Right? You're competing against like reggae bands.
But we were one of the bands that people wanted to come see. We headlined whatever club it was one of the hot ones to play on
like
the
Stubbs
right
or
nights.
Something?
It wasn't
Emos?
Stubbs, but it was one of those ones on 6th Street.
Mm-hmm.
And we just got tons of attention before and after that show.
So great.
Yeah, so great to be us at that point.
You're playing bass.
I'm playing lead guitar.
Lead guitar.
Actually, Adam and I share lead guitar stuff. He's the lead singer. I was technically the other guitar player.
What guitar are you playing?
A white Les Paul Deluxe.
So kind of a Jimmy Page thing.
It was pretty awesome.
Why did you choose a Les Paul?
Because of the sound. I loved playing Strats, and I had a really great one when we first started.
So there is a sound?
The sound is totally different. We wanted me to add this like kind of thick, loud, full distorted guitar sound to what we were playing.
know what? Is it Brian May? Is that what got you into it?
Into guitar?
Into the white Les Paul?
No, I got into it because there was one available for not too much money.
At Guitar Center?
No, I bought it off our friend's band.
Okay.
They were called Gringo Star. and I think the singer.
Ringo Starr.
Yeah, they were
That is a great
fantastic.
name.
We were label mates. Like, okay, so before we got an Interscope, this tiny little label got started, and that we were their first signing. They put out a 7-inch for us. They were called Catapult Records.
Okay.
And one of the other bands from our scene, called Gringo Star, that we played with on and off at the time, the singer had a Les Paul for sale, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna get it.
How much?
Not much. I don't remember what.
Like $500?
Maybe $3. I don't know. Not very much.
A real Les Paul?
Yeah, this thing is fantastic.
Do you still have it?
I still have it. Yeah, no, it's a gem for sure.
That is awesome.
I'm never selling that thing.
No.
Unless, I mean, I saw his name was Frank. I saw him the other night, and I was first time I'd seen him in 20 years, and I was tempted to say, if you want that guitar back, please let me know. 'Cause
Nicest man in LA.
I may not have said it. I thought it though.
Is Frank still playing music?
I think on and off. He's not in any
he
group
doesn't
I can
need
tell
your
you about.
guitar. Or do
Probably
you still
not.
play this guitar?
Only in special occasions, which is coming up. So the reason I'm thinking about it is that I just gave it to Adam to go take to a guy to like kind of fix it up because I've not played it because I'm afraid that it's gonna like just fall apart. It was my main axe for when I was playing and singing in a band called Soma, and so like
Soma, which is PSOMA.
PSOMA.
She starts screaming out and everybody's freaking out, and she starts screaming out, I'm ready to go. She starts screaming out and everybody's freaking out, and she starts screaming out, I'm ready to go. It's X and K in the evening, a little yay for the day. She takes another hit because her fun is just beginning. There ain't nothing gonna stand in her way. Okay, take her to the show and let her go. Everybody come and take.
It got a lot of use. It got a lot of travel time. It's caked in scum and sweat and smoke, and it really needed a little helping hand. But
Did you ever watch the Blues Brothers?
sure,
Remember when the Blues Brothers Bluesmobile falls apart?
uh-huh.
Does that really happen with guitars? Like, is your fear justified?
So Adam took that guitar and a couple other ones to a luthier just recently because we have our first reunion show coming up. We haven't seen each other since we broke up 20 whatever years ago.
Wow.
And so we're going to play this show in a month. And he's like, what guitar are you going to play? I was like, I played the same one. I still have it. And so he takes it to this guy that's like, works on people's guitars and it's his life. And I think they were both horrified at the state that guitar was in.
Oh.
Because I would just go play these loud, fast rock shows and sweat all over it and just throw it in the case and move on to the next one with it.
Shuffle Puck. Your video came out.
Oh my gosh, there's a video. There's anything that's happening around this band that like no one has heard of in decades. And it was so tragic that what I think was a really, really fantastic album never came out.
Was this Interscope?
Yes, Interscope.
Jimmy Iovine.
Okay, so it's his label. But we got signed by another top A&R guy, what I don't want to talk about because he had signed a bunch of massive bands. But by the time he gets to us, turns out he has some serious addiction problems and it catches up to him.
Let's talk about drugs real quick.
Okay.
Because reading Weezerpedia the other day, to learn about this man who I've known
It's good
for
to do your research.
20 years. But I mean, the fans know shit that I don't know.
Yeah.
And they brought up a lot of... I was like, Justin
Yeah.
did all those? What? It sounded like you and Rivers and your crew early on knew better than to get involved in drugs. Like even pot.
Is that knowing better? Like we wanted to play rock music.
I think it is.
And certainly there was a lot of really great artists that were doing tons of drugs and
But
may
we-
have helped their careers, may not have, but
But we also know rock and roll. We know the
Yeah.
history of rock and roll, and Jimi Hendrix and Kurt Cobain and all these other people.
they're not with us.
It didn't work out for them.
No.
I mean, yes, they created some great records for period of time, but it killed him.
Yeah.
And so, again, if we did have this rock and roll school, drugs would be a huge part of it.
Are we going to have the yes/no class again? The two of us are going to lead this class. Okay, so when we're teenagers starting a rock band, everyone thought we were high the whole time. Totally, because they're long-haired dudes. They kind of act kind of weird because we were kind of weird, but they must be on drugs. But totally not our scene at all. We were like, the guys on drugs are not as focused and not as serious as we are. We are serious. We are going to become, we're going to have we're going to take over the world. And to do that, it's better if you're not messed up.
Well, also, the type of progressive metal that you're talking about, that's difficult,
It is
intricate.
difficult. And so, like, we would run into guys that are like, dude, I'm way faster when I'm on coke. Like, I really freaking shred, don't I? And we would step back from that and go, kind of laughing to ourselves, like, yeah, you're playing a lot of notes, but you're not doing it very well. And you think you're playing great because you're on whatever you're on. Mm-hmm. And that would just reinforce this idea that we really do not want that as part of how we approach music.
Did that stick with you your whole career?
I didn't start drinking any alcohol at all until I was like 24.
Wow.
I went on some tour with a cover band to Costa Rica, and I started drinking coffee and liquor on that tour. And there's that.
Like the Irish coffee just hit one day, and you're like, ooh.
Well, we're picking the coffee beans off the plants in Costa Rica, and they're like roasting it, and you're like, oh my gosh, that smells good. I want some of that.
Wow.
And for whatever reason, that was just the time when I started thinking, hey, beer's pretty cool, and whatever liquor they're serving me is really good too. But before that, we didn't drink or smoke or take any pills or
backstage
do anything.
at all these shows, or even
when we're playing Gazzarri's and the Roxy and the Whiskey, like really the home of debaucherous rock and roll for 30 years, not just metal, but like straight out of the 60s, right? It wasn't our scene. We were...
Isn't there booze all around you for free?
All the
or
time.
cheap?
Yeah.
And still, you're never... What are you drinking back there then? Cokes?
Water, Cokes, whatever.
You're not fucking the
7-Up.
girls. You're not snorting any coke. You're not drinking. Justin, what are you doing back there?
Working on the next great song, practicing. I wanted to hook up with those girls.
Are you just shaking hands with people, like having interesting conversations?
Well,
Are you that much of a nerd?
And yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
Right? Didn't know what to do next, and we didn't have any money, so it's not like we could like go over to end up at the next hangout spot. We're not going to the Rainbow Room, where at the end of the night you are leaving with somebody. At the end of the night, we're putting our gear away and dragging it back to our practice room.
I mean, this is as wholesome as it can get.
I hope that everyone in the audience was moving on to have whatever fun they're going to have that night, but we had work to do
Moving
still.
on, I'm wasted at every Czar show.
I love the idea that everyone keeps the party going even after I stop playing the last note.
It's all the same thing every day. You took my heart, threw it away. You build me up, then push me down. Then leave me crying on the ground.
Okay, so now you're on Interscope Records, which has got to be a big deal.
It was awesome. But we really felt like, all right, we're going to have the best label. We're going to record the best album. And
Who's on Interscope at the time that you get signed?
no doubt,
Right.
Don't
Right.
Speak, the whole Tragic Kingdom album. And they are killing it. Bush is on it. All of Death Row is across the hall. I mean, it was a huge time to be on that
Where
album.
is this office at? Is this in
Westwood?
In Westwood.
Right on the edge of Westwood, like below Wilshire, right? There's a high-rise building right there.
Okay. Did you get to meet Gwen?
We played a show with him. We played the Interscope Christmas party in '96, opening for No Doubt.
Where?
At the Santa Monica Airport. There was like some hangars or something like that, and there was this huge hall. I mean, we really were having a good time at that point in our in the trajectory for a young band.
Do you get to say hi to Gwen?
I guess I had met them early because Weezer had toured with them like that summer, and I jumped on the bus for a couple weeks. And we, everyone's eating together, and I'd met Gwen before.
For those of us who haven't gotten to meet her before,
Or go inner tubing in Bryce Canyon. Like they had a day off and we all went inner tubing together. Like that was super fun.
what's more beautiful, Gwen or Bryce Canyon?
I don't remember Bryce Canyon very much. I think there were some rocks.
Perfect answer. Okay.
Oh wait, but that night, not only are we opening for No Doubt, but halfway through our set, which is not going great. It was kind of early. Maybe people hadn't really gotten their game on or their party going. Gene Simmons walks in. We're huge Kiss fans, and Adam, our lead singer, just steps up to the mic and starts shouting his name until he comes up on stage and plays Strutter with us.
What?
So awesome! Like really, this is an amazing time to be in a rock band. Like I can't ask for much more than that.
Is Gene one of these guys that, hell yeah, I'll play Strutter with you?
Yes.
I want the attention too.
Yes. And I also want to be with the next young band that's coming up. Right? So he gets on stage, and our bass player, who's even a bigger Kiss fan than Adam and I, which I can't believe, but it's true, he hands him the bass, and Gene's like, all right, what are the chords?
He has to be coached on Strutter?
Maybe he didn't know what key we're playing it in.
Okay.
Just, you got to...
It's not the key of Kiss? Like, do people improvise? I mean,
No,
that's a
but you
classic
could
song.
sure, but you could it could be in B or you
Drop
could be,
D.
You could be tuned down.
Right.
It just took him a second.
Good for him.
Yeah,
He's
and
a
then
pro.
He's like strutting around the stage. He's put on a show. It was fantastic. And then we were slated to play with them at the Forum for their first show back with makeup on, the original lineup in '96. But Interscope shelves our album 2 weeks before that gig, and they have to go with another band that has a song out on the radio. And that's the start of that band's like precipitous fall from grace. It was really a huge disappointment.
Because Interscope got Polygram, and that's what Kiss was on?
We had cross paths with them in a number of ways by that point. And we really, as huge fans, right? But here we are, now we're practicing next to them, and we had done a number of other things to kind of become in the same world. We were also talking to their manager, to Doc McGee, and possibly, he was possibly going to manage us. In a lot of ways, we were crossing paths. And
Okay, your best friend Rivers, also giant Kiss fan.
Totally.
Do you call him and say, bro, you got to come? Gene's probably going to be here. Like, does Rivers get some of this Kiss love?
He gets his own Kiss love. They've crossed paths too.
Gene likes Weezer too.
There was a real Rivers still talks about this. There was his first conversation with Gene, picking up some pointers from him about the music industry in general, and he took it to heart because here's a guy he's looked up to since he was very, very small. And so what Gene says, you're gonna think about and maybe believe it, right?
So, am I to assume that the Weezer Snuggie is inspired by Gene Simmons?
Could have been. I don't know. Is it?
Well,
Does Kiss have a Snuggie?
He's the king of merch,
Yeah, it could be.
and that Snuggie was just so funny.
Blankets are okay, but they can slip and slide. And when you need to reach for something, your hands are trapped inside. Now, there's the Weezer Snuggie, the blanket that has sleeves. The Weezer Snuggie keeps you totally warm and gives you the freedom to use your hands. So now you can work the remote or read a book in total warmth and comfort.
Everybody's perfect.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want a Snuggie? Okay, so Gene Simmons also, I think, is a straight edge guy in that he doesn't drink or smoke or do drugs.
Is that true?
I don't know.
I don't know.
He comes across as a guy that That's not his thing.
Not his thing.
It's business is
Business
his
is thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sadly, your Interscope guy is a druggie. Screws everything up. Is he the reason why they shelved your record? Like what? Like I don't understand. The cake has been baked. I'm not going to put it on the shelf to be sold.
They had a lot of really good cakes in '96, and they didn't have windows of opportunity to put everyone's albums out, and we didn't have our knight in shining armor to say, hey, you got to put my boys out there. And so we had 3, 4, maybe 5 different release dates over the next 8 months, and each one got pushed because there was someone else that Interscope, for whatever reason, felt like they were ready to push instead of ours.
Beastie Boys had the same problem at Capitol. They had the biggest debut ever on Def Jam.
Mm-hmm.
They moved to LA and do Paul's Boutique, which to me is the Pinkerton.
It's their Pinkerton. It's their Pet Sounds.
Absolutely, right?
To this day, it's hugely influential for millions of people.
Flopped when the label puts it out. But again, in the history of rock and roll, it's about labels effing it up. How do you blow it on Paul's Boutique? How do you blow it on Pinkerton? And now, how are you blowing it on Shuffle
On
Puck?
Shuffle Puck.
So, from what I understand with the Beastie Boys, it was because they had Capitol had just signed Donny Osmond.
What?
And wanted to put all their chips in the Donny Osmond world.
Okay, so the first time our album gets pushed, the release gets pushed, I think it's because Bush had an imprint label on Interscope. And so Gavin Rossdale goes, hey, you got to put this song out of my guys. And that's the first time. And that song came out instead of ours.
Bush themselves or Bush's friends?
Bush's friends. The band that they had signed to their imprint label.
Called the Madagascar 3?
Is
it somebody we've never heard of?
I could look it up because
we've never heard of them, right?
Because I have a painful little,
I know you do.
I feel the dagger in my back. I could sing the song right now, but I'm not.
I'm pushing the dagger. I want to know who they gambled on instead of you.
Yeah, and it was on the radio for a second. When it should have been us. I try not to look back and have too many regrets, but I can be a little.
But that one's out of your control, though, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. They all were.
There's nothing you could do.
Yeah.
Is there anything you could have done? Like, do you leak
in hindsight, there's a lot of things I felt like we could have done. We should have just gone and gotten in a van and driven across the country,
and just played it
and just kept going the way we had, we had done it all ourselves up to that point. Why couldn't we keep doing it? But
you did it, but in the past with your own financing, and the reason that bands don't do this once they get signed is because they believe that the label's supposed to get them like the sweet van,
and we think we have to wait for all the ducks to be in a row, for your albums to be in the stores, for the label to push you to the radio stations, to line up. We had a couple of touring opportunities set up with a tour agent, but since we didn't have any pull yet, they really still couldn't do anything for us. If we had just gotten in a van and booked our own shows, I've done it since then. I learned how to do that, and we could have just kept pushing, except we felt like we needed to stay in town and wait for the record label to tell us what to do.
You're giving the kids great advice, Justin.
Yeah.
Don't rely on a label. Ever. Ever, ever. Unless you're Beyonce. And they're not, and she ain't relying on them.
Okay, so
they're relying on her.
The major label can do stuff for you, for sure. Little indie labels can totally do something for you. And this band Shuffle Puck has finally got another chance with an indie label.
What's the label?
Big Stir Records.
Why do I know them?
Because our good friend Steve Coulter, a.k.a. S.W. Loudon, has a fantastic project coming out called Generation Blue that is going to talk about all the same stuff we're talking about right now. This scene that got created when Weezer gets signed and people recognize that this cool thing is happening in town, and all of a sudden they're gone, but there's still people that want to see this kind of music and want to be part of this kind of scene. And Shuffle Puck and some other bands get to go play the same clubs on the same sort of nights, and you get to see all the same people and hang out with your crowd.
Steve is also in the Brother Steve, who we've interviewed here before, and they're on big
Big Stir Records.
Big Stir.
Get on up and watch sunset. Get on up and watch sunset. Get on up and watch sunset.
Yeah. And now there's this compilation album that comes out with Steve's oral history book and Shuffle Puck's on it for the first time. There's a release of one of those recordings from
So that
96.
album, nothing ever.
It was like a buried gem. You could find those recordings out there, like some really not great digital copies on YouTube.
Did you ever have a CD of it?
Never had it. Never had a physical copy.
Again, what? I don't understand it. Justin, this is why. I think in my heart I'm a pimp. I think in a past life I was a pimp.
All right.
And so when I see anything of value, fucking sell it.
Yep.
Sell it.
Yep.
Other than this podcast. There's no ads. I draw the line there. But I don't make this for it to be sold. You sign a contract with a record label so that you can sell the music to the kids.
Well, we signed that contract, and after a year of not putting the album out, they just gave it back to us without having to pay them back.
They gave you the masters?
Gave us the masters.
Oh.
We tried to get re-signed in 97.
Saying, hey, we've got a
We
finished
got
album ready to go.
That people were really excited about.
Because isn't that is that the most expensive part, recording the thing or promoting the
Well,
thing?
promoting is expensive too, but however much money we spent, we were spending gobs of money while we were recording, and the label kept saying, just go ahead and make a good album. Keep spending money.
Okay,
we're
okay,
recording next to like Quincy Jones and AC/DC.
What studio is this?
Record plant in Hollywood.
So when you say it's expensive, so when our friend Czar got their big deal, they were ordering sushi, they were buying guitars, like that's
Yeah,
how they
we did all that.
Is that what you mean by it was expensive and the label said just keep doing what you're doing?
Yeah, thousands of dollars a day. We have an expensive engineer. We have an expensive room to record in.
Who
we
was
have
your
a
producer? Did you have an expensive producer?
Jim Wirt.
Jim Wirt?
Jim Wirt. He had also helped discover Incubus, and he works out of our other favorite studio, 4th Street Recording, in Santa Monica, which is a small little boutique recording studio, and we tracked a bunch of the guitars and stuff there. Mm-hmm. And Adam had gotten a job as an intern there, like early on when he first moved to LA, and so that was kind of our home base. Mm-hmm. But we are on the big rock and roll label, so we went to the expensive spot first, and then used 4th Street as a place to do some overdubs and stuff.
Is there a giant difference between the fancy studio and the
Every
boutique?
room sounds different, right? So we felt like drums were really going to sound good in those rooms at that one recording studio at the record plant.
Was it true?
It sounded amazing.
Okay.
Sounds fantastic. But Interscope gives us those masters for free, and we try to get signed again.
Which, by the way, is very rare, right?
It's really rare.
Usually you're on the hook for like the $1 million, $2 million.
Yeah, and you'll never get it, right? You have
you've
it
got to sell that many in royalties, right?
totally at whatever $1 a record.
still have to pay
Until
that
you're
off.
selling millions of albums, you're not getting money back on record sales.
So the Lord blessed you on this
You would think so.
and said,
But in 97, when we're trying to get re-signed, number one, a major label had not put us out, so we already looked not so good.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a year of waiting around, so we don't have a buzz in town. And in that time, music seemed like it was about to change. What we hear from the industry is they're looking for the next Hanson, mbop. Bop, bop, doo, wop,
Guess
dig it
what?
up, up, up,
they
right?
never found the new Hanson.
And they also, and this is the major one, the Prodigy had come out in the last few months, and everyone thought electronica was going to take over the world. And so that's the report we're getting from the industry. And in that first month or so, we don't get re-signed because of it.
Okay, once again, my theory that these record labels don't know shit.
But at the time, we think that the record labels are the important thing of how we're going to reach the next level.
They are important, but they're totally wrong almost all the time.
Maybe we were wrong also to try to get a huge deal again. Once again, like, could we have gotten in a van with our album and sold it ourselves? And
does this just sweet, open demeanor come from? Like, were your parents like this? Is this Rivers' influence as you're playing Dungeons and Dragons? Like, hey, let's just be nice to each other, like, instead of judgmental Tony? Like, what was it that formed all this?
I don't know. I've had an awful lot of cool experiences, right? And a lot of those include also like, man, that really sucked. And so I've been through that time that's really sucked. Like, I can easily say the year before the Amherst House was the worst year in my life. And I can usually say I've done something harder than whatever's happening today, right? I also know that an awful lot of cool stuff's happened, and it's easy for me to work off that and go, my life is pretty darn great. It's a beautiful Southern California day today.
Sure is.
I'm hanging out with a cool...
Whereas optimistic people are like...
Shufflepuck broke up, and I went and somehow turned it around, and I started Soma, and I got to play with Nerf Herder for 10 years, and I played with the Rentals, and I just kept moving forward because it's stuff I wanted to do, right? So there was life after that, after Interscope not putting your album out. Okay.
And not about Matt.
You're going to ask me about Maya Rudolph, who is fantastic, and I didn't get to play with her. Yeah, I'm in a version of the Rentals.
When you were there.
Matt comes back from recording most of that second album.
I was hoping I could write a real sweet tune. No passion, there wasn't in these words. But I was trying, yeah, but I had nothing to offer. Waiting, with nothing to do. I'm waiting.
It was a long time ago. So he comes back to LA, and he doesn't have a band at this point, and he's burned a lot of bridges in the middle of making that, and he and I are kind of working through the album. I'm helping him like figure out where the elements of those songs are and help him finish it. And then we put together a touring band and went and played in Japan and played in France for a little bit with a different combo.
Do the Japanese girls want to kiss you, Justin?
I think.
Were you married at the time?
Was I married? No, but Shannon and I were together during that period.
You don't have
right?
a little deal with her? Like, baby, whatever happens in Tokyo.
Stays in Tokyo?
Come on.
No, that trip to Japan was fantastic because there were super fans. Like, people love the Rentals there.
That's what I'm
They're
saying.
huge, right?
That's what I'm saying. And they're lonely.
Chances are
These
there would have
poor-
been chances like some chances to like sign autographs and whatnot. But immediately after the shows, we were whisked away to go have dinner with a production company that kept us. And they would keep us out late.
but-
And then I heard that fans would end up at the hotels and wait for you. I have a feeling that we were being kept away
Intentionally.
Do I know that for a fact? I couldn't tell you that, but
What's Japanese for cock blocker? Why are they doing this?
I can't tell you that there's some sort of edict involved here. But
Because I heard Japanese businessmen at the end of the business meeting set you up with a nice lady. But in rock and roll, they block you from the nice lady in Japan.
maybe they took us out for amazing meals, but it really felt
that's
like
true.
they were separating the visiting band from the public for one reason or another. Who knows why?
So I got to move to Japan and change this too. I have so much work to do. Justin, you're the man. Oh, wait. Who's in the Rentals when you're in there? There's Matt, not Maya Rudolph. Any of Charlie Hayden's kids in this band?
Not at this point. Mick Flowers.
Really?
Yeah, he was our drummer. And also Brandon Quasar, who's going to put on
From
the...
Popsico?
Yes, Mick Flowers from Popsico. Why? Because I knew him, and so we called him up and see if he wanted to do it.
This is a
And Josh Hagar, who is now in Devo. He goes from the Rentals, and now he's in Devo.
As a guitar player.
As keyboard, guitar player, multi-instrumentalist.
So is your lesson for young people, learn all the instruments and learn how to sing?
It gives you a better opportunity to fill in a position when it opens up yeah, I could do that. But that's been it's also like, as a musician, you better be ready to be a gig worker, right? And you better go, all right, hey, this gig is opened up. I'm going to take it.
How great was Justin? If you want to see him play, you're in for a treat. On April 28th, his bands Shufflepuck and Soma are playing in Monrovia. I know! But you know who else is going to be there? The Campfire Girls, Rydell High, Daniel and Jose of Ozma, even Perry and Linus of Nerf Herder. They're all playing together, one night only, at the Mayan Bar and Grill in Monrovia. Go to this episode's page on hereinla.com for more details and pictures of Justin. You know who we'd like to go to free rock shows with in Monrovia? Our Patreons. When you stoke us, you're saying, Tony, I hear you need some new shock absorbers for the Benz. This will help soften the blow. So shout out to our Patreons, Nancy Rommelman, Sean Atlow, Matt Mills, Sean Wallace, Greg and Molly, Jamie Taylor, Mark Johnson, Kira Ann, Barney Grenke, Ben Welsh, Jen Adams, Trevor Wilson, Bree Wild, Dougie Gyro, Christina Up North, Robin Carey, who live very close to Monrovia, I hear, Adam Shorn, Ben from Down Under, Chris from the ATX, Gregor, and Phil. To be a Patreon, just go to patreon.com/hereinla and give till it hurts. Want to support us, but the record label is sitting on your album too? You can still help. Post your favorite episode on your Facebook. Start with this one. Tweet this link on your Twitter or Threads. Put it on your live journal. But tell your friends. Tell them how Here in LA is spelled and that it's on Apple Podcasts and Google and even YouTube. Here in LA is produced by myself, Tony Pierce. Music supervision by Jordan Katz. Songs by Orgone and Jordan Katz. You also heard Soma, Fury, Weezer, Wax, Zoom, Avant-Garde, The Dedicated Project, which is the Dead cover band that Justin is in, Fuzz, Shufflepuck, The Brother Steve, The Rentals, and Popsico, R.I.P. Keith Brown. Special thanks to Cindy for creating the logo, Jen for inspiring this, and parents of future rock and rollers. Thank you for all you do.